Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Have you ever thought about whether the Dursleys were truly evil, or if the movies simply made them look that way? What if the truth about them was much more complicated, and they weren't the heartless monsters we've been led to believe? In today's video, you will find out what the films didn't show us about the Dursleys and why their story might deserve a second look. Throughout the Harry Potter series, few characters were as despised as the Dursleys. The ordinary Muggle family that raised Harry was portrayed as cruel, petty, and even abusive. Thanks to the movies, they stood alongside villains like Dolores Umbridge and Draco Malfoy, despite committing far fewer actual crimes. I won't say they were perfect, but maybe they weren't as bad as we thought. It's time to set the record straight and uncover their real story, the one that was mostly left out of the films. So grab your favourite Muggle tea and let's dive in. The Dursleys before Harry Potter. Petunia Dursley was the older sister of Lily Potter, Harry's mother. As children, they were close, but everything changed when Lily was revealed to be a witch and accepted into Hogwarts. Petunia dreamed of joining her sister in the magical world, even writing to Dumbledore begging for a chance to study magic. But she was a Muggle and her wish was impossible. Over time, jealousy turned into resentment. She distanced herself from magic, left her childhood home, and married a man who shared her views. Vernon Dursley was an average Muggle, practical, ambitious, and deeply concerned with order and normalcy. He didn't just dislike magic, he feared and distrusted it. But he and Petunia still had to maintain some contact with Harry's parents. After all, they were family. At one fateful dinner, James Potter mocked Vernon for his mundane lifestyle, embarrassing him deeply. From that moment on, Vernon held a grudge, and unfortunately, he directed much of that resentment at Harry, who reminded him too much of his father. Their son, Dudley Dursley, grew up spoiled and entitled. Given everything he wanted and never disciplined, he became a bully. But as we'll see later, even Dudley wasn't beyond redemption. Why the Dursleys disliked Harry. Their mistreatment of Harry wasn't random. It had reasons, even if they weren't good ones. Petunia resented Harry because he represented everything she had once wished for, but could never have. He was a wizard, just like her sister. He was kind, intelligent, and strong, qualities that made her own son look worse in comparison. And perhaps, deep down, she feared that his presence would bring danger to their home. Vernon disliked Harry because he was the spitting image of James Potter, the man who had humiliated him years ago. That bitterness never faded. And as for Dudley, he bullied Harry simply because he had never been taught otherwise. He was a child raised without boundaries, and hurting others made him feel powerful. Were the Dursleys truly evil? Despite everything, I wouldn't say they were outright villains. Here's why. The Dursleys tried to keep Harry away from the dangers of the magical world. When they desperately blocked his Hogwarts letters, maybe they weren't just being cruel. Maybe they genuinely thought they were protecting him from a world filled with dark wizards, Voldemort, and deadly spells. Over time, they showed moments of remorse. Petunia stopped Vernon from throwing Harry out after the Dementor attack. And in their final goodbye, she hesitated, as if she wanted to say something meaningful, but couldn't find the words. Even Dudley changed. He thanked Harry for saving him from the Dementors and later, as an adult, kept in touch with him and Ginny. As we continue uncovering the truth about the Dursleys, let's take a closer look at the events that shaped them and the moments that hinted at something deeper than just cruelty. Their story wasn't black and white, and neither were their actions. One of the most telling moments in Petunia's life was her reaction to the death of Lily and James. We never see it in the movies, but in the books it's clear that Petunia knew more about the wizarding world than she let on. When Dumbledore's letter arrived with baby Harry, she didn't hesitate to take him in. She didn't want him, that much is obvious, But she also didn't abandon him. It would have been easy to leave him at an orphanage, but she didn't. Maybe it was duty. Maybe it was a lingering sense of loyalty to her sister. Or maybe, despite all her bitterness, she couldn't bear to turn her back on the only family she had left. Vernon, on the other hand, was furious. He wanted nothing to do with magic or the world it came from. To him, taking in Harry was like inviting chaos into their perfectly normal lives. But even he, for all his anger and resentment, didn't abandon the child. He chose to raise him, however poorly. It's hard to say whether they genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. In their minds, magic was dangerous. If they could suppress it in Harry, keep him away from that world, maybe they thought they were keeping him safe. Of course, we know how wrong they were. The way they treated Harry was cruel, but it was also consistent. They never tried to hurt him outright, but they did everything they could to make him feel small and unimportant. They locked him in the cupboard under the stairs. They gave him their son's hand-me-downs. They let Dudley torment him without consequences. But why? Petunia's feelings were the most complicated. She feared magic, but she also envied it. Raising Harry was a constant reminder of everything she could never be. Every time she saw him, she saw Lily. Every time he did something strange, it brought back the pain of being the sister left behind. And yet, there were moments when her true feelings slipped through. When Harry mentioned Dementors, she reacted with horror, proving she knew exactly what they were. When she said, "You didn't just lose a mother that night," she revealed a grief she had never spoken about. She had lost Lily, and though she pretended otherwise, that wound had never healed. Vernon's resentment was different. His grudge against Harry wasn't personal, it was about control. He despised anything that disrupted his version of normal, and Harry was the ultimate disruption. Magic defied logic, it defied rules, and most of all, it defied Vernon's carefully structured world. Dudley was simply a product of his environment. He grew up being told he was special, that he could do no wrong. So when he saw Harry being treated like an outsider, he followed his parents' lead. He bullied because he had never been taught not to. But he, too, changed. The moment that marked a shift was when the Dementors attacked. For the first time, Dudley saw something beyond his limited world. He felt fear, real fear, and it changed him. The next time he saw Harry, he thanked him. It was a small gesture, but a powerful one. As for Petunia, her farewell to Harry was the biggest hint of her true feelings. She hesitated. She wanted to say something, but she didn't. What was she holding back? An apology? A warning? A final attempt at connection? We'll never know, but that silence spoke volumes. The Dursleys were not heroes, but they weren't pure villains either. They were ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. They were flawed, prejudiced, and often unkind. But they were also human. Their story, in many ways, is a story of fear, fear of magic, fear of change, fear of the unknown. They tried to bury that fear by controlling what they could, by shaping their world into something predictable. And in doing so, they lost the chance to truly understand the boy they had raised. Could things have been different? Could they have loved Harry if they had let go of their fears? Maybe. Maybe not, but one thing is certain. They were not as simple as the films made them seem. And maybe, just maybe, they deserve a second look.